Topping Talks. 105 hours a week, can't be beat. Welcome to Topping Talks. Topping Talks is a Topping Tribune production. And today's episode is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies and ExpressVPN. Topping Talks is also on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. I have to say, quite handsome and brilliant. If you're a business in Texas and could use a hand, you can reach us at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, are you part of the 3.6% of Americans who still care about their privacy? If you are, then perfect. ExpressVPN can assist. Even though 96% of stats are made up on the spot, ExpressVPN does give a 100% guarantee via their 30-day money-back guarantee. Now, without further ado, I'm proud to say today I'm interviewing Max Fuerst, who is Executive VP at Wolfpack Agency. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. So winding back the clock a couple years, how do you first get into camera work and advertising, and what got you interested?
Yeah, well, it's an honor to be here, and like some of your other guests, it all starts in the automotive world for me. I started working on cars, going to car meets, getting into drifting more specifically at a 240 SX.
Nice.
And the short of it is I was out drifting, trying to, at the time, I was 18, 17, thinking I was going to be this big pro drifter, not knowing that racing takes a whole lot of money to compete in. So I learned in college with no money that, probably wasn't going to happen. So I wanted to focus on a career, sell my car, and then eventually get back into it, right? So I'm in college at the time. I sell my 240 SX. They've got a film program at UNT, which is where I went, and decided, you know what, I'm going to switch majors to film. I grew up filming skateboarding, which was a big passion of mine too, and switched to the film program over there. During that, I basically kept going to events, kept going to races, and to make myself useful, or make myself feel useful, I'd bring a camera with me and go film with some of my friends that were up and coming drivers, and got super into it.
What kind of camera was that at the time?
Oh, it was a Canon T2i.
Oh, there you go.
Which I think they're on like the T8i or something now. So yeah, camera advancements have come a long way, and I think that was it was 2010.
Oh wow!
I believe that when I really kind of locked into filming race cars, and I was borrowing cameras from friends too. So I had nothing. I was poor because I was trying to race and trying to be a big shot, and it's takes a lot to make it up the ranks, if you will.
Oh, absolutely.
So I mean, from there, I'm filming racing. Wakeboarding was a big hobby of mine too that I had gotten into. So there's parks locally that you can go film at that have these like cable systems.
Oh, really?
And so to be able to go do that, I would work there. And so I was, working there, operating the machinery for, $8 an hour. So I could just go ride for free. And then I had like the car hobby too. So I had a lot of expensive hobbies as a kid that I tried to make work. But yeah, so I was filming hobbies like wakeboarding, racing, and eventually kind of figured out that people would give me money for videos. So it transitioned from, an hourly rate to work. And while I was going to school to, maybe I can do a video for $100 or $50, or I just started kind of doing my little hustle with that. And
do you remember your very first commissioned project, or the very first time you got paid for the camera work?
The first one that stands out, like I think I did a lot of like little things and filming little events and stuff for $50, $100. But the first big one that I was like, oh man, I'm making it, was for my buddy Kevin. He's got an Evo shop called Evo Dynamics, and they also have an app that they created to help manage performance shops.
Oh, cool.
So they're big entrepreneur guys, Kevin and Todd, good friends. I remember they told me, we need this video for our program or our app that we're running. At the time, they were like, I think about to go on Shark Tank, or they had just gone on Shark Tank. So they wanted like a really solid video going on there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And they offered me $500, and I was rich.
Hell yeah.
As a
there you go.
Broke kid in college, $500 was a lot of money to me.
Absolutely.
So we filmed their little video, and that really clicked for me.
What was that video like? Or was it taking the Evos on the track or street drift?
No,
what was it like?
It was all at their shop. There's no racing involved. That was a funny thing.
Really?
It's like it was for the app, and they kind of, beta tested or did the R&D at their own shop to help them manage customers. It was really cool. Like, you could go in and order parts through it. You could update customers through it, and had automated text and messages and pictures of builds to where they're not spending all this time on the phone. It was a great idea.
Brilliant.
So that's what we showed off. We went to the shop and we filmed at their shop, but it was, what can the app do for the customer and the owner of the shop too. So kind of a boring video, but use case wise, ROI wise, it was great.
Absolutely. And what kind of gear, what was the process like? What kind of camera, then how would you edit it, and where would you post it, or do you just give them a CD, or what was that whole like?
It was, this was not right when YouTube came out, but YouTube was like starting to become a big thing. It had been out for a bit. So for them, it was like, I remember I brought my trusty, I had bought my own T2i by this time. Yeah. And I remember I had this like big crane that my buddy Fielding, who was a drifter I filmed, he had a bunch of gear that he'd let me borrow. I had this big like jib that was 12 feet long and a pain in the ass to drag around, but it was the coolest thing ever at the time. So I remember setting up a jib in the shop and doing these big like sweeping jib shots. And then
just for the folks at home, what's a jib?
It's like a crane. It's like a portable crane. So it's on a stand, and you operate it from the back. You put the camera up top. Yep. It shoots out about 12 feet. So I'm like operating this big crane in the shop to get these like big sweeping movements. You see them on live shows and stuff all the time.
I think I saw my Mythbusters back in the day.
Yeah. So, or if you're at a concert or something, but like to have that piece of gear at the time, it was like, I was losing my mind over it at the time. So yeah, we use gear like that. I lit interviews up and asked them questions about the app, and it was pretty cut and dry video. I just tried to get cool B-roll of all the Evos, and at the time I was just like mind blown at these cars.
They're iconic. I mean, it's the pin, in my opinion, one of the pinnacle of Mitsubishi engineering. I mean,
for sure, and we'll get to it later. But obviously, I owned one and built one to be a camera accessory, if you will. So it's funny to think back that like, my first big break video was at a shop that built Evos. Yeah. And I ended up owning one. But like you said, it's one of the more iconic JDM cars that you can own. And it was like I was surrounded by Ferraris basically. Yeah. It's stuff I look back and I was wigging out about at the time that may not, catch my eye today because I've seen a lot and done a lot, but I like to look back at those things and remember how excited I was.
Oh, absolutely. And then once you capture all that video, did you edit it on a PC or a Mac, or how did you deliver the product?
At the time, I was on PC because it was the more efficient option. Oh, yeah. You could build your own PC, edit video on it, and it was, I feel like from then, again, 2010, 2011, I was always like, just enough money to have some kind of operating system that like worked, but it didn't work great. Yeah. So a lot of times, rendering shots just so you could view them, or computers struggling to keep up with what you wanted. So like the time it takes to edit a video doubles. Oh yeah. So at the time it was PC. I eventually got a MacBook that was okay for what I was needing. So I've always floated between the two. I've always had both, actually. Like,
really?
Yeah, I'll have a desktop that I build, and then I'll get a MacBook, but I still have the desktop, and then I'll upgrade one and then get another one, which now today I pretty much work on my new MacBook Pro laptop all the time because they're insane now.
Especially with the proprietary Apple-made processors, too.
Yep. I mean, the M1 Max, had to pick it up. It's got my name on it.
Oh, yeah.
I put it to the test, and they're fast, man. I love it.
It's incredible. Definitely something I want to get long-term in terms of podcasting, because I've heard nothing but good things, especially video editing on those setups.
I throw a lot at my MacBook, and sometimes I'm surprised it doesn't just light on fire with the amount of data and stuff that we shoot now with camera tech advancing as far as it has. But they really, really crushed it on the development of the chip and processor speeds, and then it handles all the graphics and even like 3D After Effects work that we do with it.
Oh yeah.
So.
And then after you started those first couple of projects and kind of launched your full-fledged own shop, what were a couple of highlights when you were working for yourself and starting to kind of dive deeper into the industry?
Yeah, I think, from that point forward, again, I was in college, I was in the film program, and I remember being there, being frustrated because it was a little more TV oriented, and I knew I didn't want to work in TV. So, and back to YouTube. YouTube was really starting to blow up. So a lot of what I learned was just, going to class, doing what I needed to do to pass the class, so I didn't have to retake it the next semester. I was not the best student there or growing up because I was always distracted by hobbies and things I wanted to do. So film was that hobby that I was going to school for, but I felt like I wasn't learning at the pace I wanted to learn. So I'd go home, get on YouTube, watch people's footage, watch tutorials, and that's how I really developed the skill set and kind of style, and learning from other cinematographers too that I knew that shot the same things that I did.
Yeah, I was gonna say definitely good call, because how many people are shooting for TV nowadays?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of crazy. Like, we had a full blown news and TV station, and it was fun. Like the teachers were great there, but I didn't know what I was doing. Like it wasn't like I was some genius going, I'm gonna do this and make a bunch of money. It was just kind of like I had normal jobs. I was waiting tables and going to school, and then eventually it worked out to where I didn't have to wait tables, but I was still in school. And then moving forward from that, I started shooting more racing, doing videos like that, and that's when my buddy Nate Hamilton, a kid that I met back in 2008, drifting. We were drifting together, and he was one of the people that was up and coming and had eventually made it to be a pro driver.
Oh, cool.
And we had been good friends for a long time. He asked me to come along for the season to all the races around the country for Formula Drift and start taking, it was mechanic work and taking photos for sponsors to help deliver, content to them and deliver recaps. So I said, you know what? I've got 13 hours of school left, or class credits left, and summer was coming up. I was like, I'm going to take a semester off because I don't feel like I'm progressing here, and went to go shoot racing. And that decision came with a lot of, I guess, controversy at the school and with family and friends. They were like, why are you dropping out of school? I'm like, I'm not dropping out, but this was my dream. I grew up watching all these guys racing, and now I get to go film them and travel the country.
How could you not say yes to that opportunity? Yeah,
I was going no matter what.
Yeah.
So that kind of launched the next chapter of things. It's filming, racing, and doing that for years. I think I filmed, Nate and I did 3 or 4 years of Formula Drift.
Oh, wow.
Consecutively.
Yeah.
At the time, we ended up getting an apartment together and a shop together to where I was helping his program and then still hustling videos back home, and getting more, basically using the business side of video making to, pay my rent and pay the bills, and then going and filming racing and, taking whatever budget I could that could be allocated to me to go do that. But I loved doing it. So it didn't matter.
Absolutely. And then what was your favorite place when you were going all over, going to all those events? What was your favorite one or favorite spot?
I mean, all the tracks are so cool. Again, I grew up probably from like 2004 watching Formula Drift. So next thing I know, we're, hanging out with all these drivers after races that I grew up watching and idolized, and they're becoming friends, and they're staying with us when they come to Texas. And we're going to all these tracks. I remember going to Road Atlanta. That was always like a really iconic track in Formula Drift. It was one of the fastest entries. Cars are flying 110 miles per hour into the first turn.
Yeah.
So seeing that in person, seeing the crowd was always rowdy. The cars are crazy. The scenery's beautiful. I think that was on the top of my list. And then Irwindale Speedway was always the last round of Formula Drift where people won or lost championships. So I got to watch a lot of definitive moments in drifting history happen at Irwindale.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it was cool to be a part of that and to witness it live.
Absolutely. What was it like being behind the scenes? Because I'm guessing you had different access. You get close to the camera. What was that whole process like?
Yeah, I mean, we could basically go wherever we wanted within reason, safety reason.
Of course, yeah.
They had rules for us and stuff, but it's cool getting like Irwindale's a good example. It's a banked track with a big bank and then a small bank at the bottom. And I remember I would sit at the bottom bank, like up against the K-rail with my wide angle lens and just get these crazy shots, but just get hit with tire smoke and dust over and over and over again. It was like I was the happiest kid in the world to be there.
That's awesome.
So a lot of cool places. I like shooting close to the action with wider lenses.
Oh yeah.
And I kind of attribute that to growing up skateboarding. That's kind of the style, fisheye lens.
Oh yeah.
Getting close and getting these cool wide shots.
That's the way to do it. And it's so many variables that go into that and all the So what kind of camera setup were you using for that particular?
So I went with my T2i. That camera went through a lot with me. So I think it was just the first year in my T2i, I was helping change tires or work on the car, and then I was taking photos with it and some video clips. Cool. And that was at a time I remember, like, that year, actually at the Texas round, on Instagram, like Instagram launched, and like we would only post things from our phone.
Yeah.
Like photos from our phone. And I remember learning from a friend, Ryan, and I think maybe it was Nate learned from Ryan and Nate taught me, but we figured out how to send edited videos to Dropbox and then send them to our phone. So all of a sudden now you could upload all this like professional looking content instead of just like cell phone, iPhone 4 or 5 or whatever it was at the time, photos to Instagram. So I remember that being a thing.
So your videos just automatically look light years ahead of all the competition on Instagram.
Even with just my T2i. So, but from then I progressed. I remember buying a Sony A7S when it first came out.
Oh, nice.
And I'd gotten allocated budget from one of the sponsors, who's the marketing director, is still a really good friend to this day. My buddy Cody. I remember getting a few $1,000s to film like the whole season from him, and basically blowing it all on an A7S and all camera gear. So then I was like, all right, I got to figure out how to get to all these races and travel and eat there. But it was still the best decision. So I had that A7S for years. I think like 4 years. I finished out like my first stint of filming Formula Drift, and eventually I left for a while to build a business. But when I came back, I had bought a red camera.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Things are so professional. They gather so much data. It's insane.
Yeah, they're little crazy computers with crazy sensors, and it was, at the time, buying one of those, and I think a lot of video people won't like me saying this, but it was definitely like a statement piece to where like when people, I mean, now you know the brand, they're not a household name, but like a big brand name to where people.
It's impressive.
Yeah, you had some validation if you owned one, which, today means nothing. It's about what you shoot and the lenses, and that's what everybody told me. But I still was like, I want a red camera, and I bought one when I was building my other business at the time to get a higher quality video camera and use that kind of clout or just prestige to get clients, and it worked.
Oh yeah, it's good. I mean, it's good advertising. A lot of businesses have like a halo product or something kind of validate. Hey, this is one of the tools we use. It's kind of cliche to say, but you can't just go to Best Buy and buy it. It's professional grade. It's higher quality.
The halo product's a good analogy, I think, as competing with other agencies and video guys at the time. Sometimes it was just like, oh, you have a red, and I was like, yeah. They'd be like, okay, like, what's your rate? We want you to come shoot this.
Awesome.
Them not knowing, I've got a $900 Sigma lens on the end of it.
Yeah.
That's still a great lens and whatnot, but that's just part of their marketing that was smart.
Oh, yeah.
It works.
Yeah, and for the folks at home who don't realize, $900 is maybe a mid-level lens. I mean, it's crazy how expensive they get.
Once you get in a real commercial work, it's low level. I mean, we rent. Eventually, you can't just buy these lenses because financially it doesn't make sense. You rent them from rental houses, but the last commercial we did, one lens is about 30, 40 grand.
Oh my gosh.
And we're using a set of 5,
Oh my gosh.
So you rent them and it's $1,000, $1,500 for the day. just to use them.
It's a lot better than spending like 150 grand plus for those lenses.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense for us. But like the red camera at the time, I remember, I think I'm pretty comfortable talking numbers and stuff. I think I spent like 22 grand on it.
Yeah. Just with the naked body or body plus lens plus all the accessories?
Well, everything I needed.
Okay, gotcha.
Everything I needed. So it was a lot of money at the time. And I tell people, the way I did it wasn't the smart way, but I put myself under the gun, and I saved up half the money. Then I cash advanced a credit card.
Yeah.
It had like a low interest rate for like a year.
Yeah.
And used the rest of it to pay for that. I was like, I know this is gonna pay off, and I'll make it back. And it did, and it worked out fine. But you'll see my path is kind of untraditional in some ways like that.
Well, I like that. It's just, you gotta have that kind of confidence, and I'm sure it also gave you the extra hustle to grow the business because you're invested, you're all in.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta pay off that credit card. You gotta recoup the investment in the hardware and the software.
It didn't feel like confidence at the time. It was just, I want this, and I feel like it's gonna work. But it was still like that unknown of like, holy crap, this is a lot of money to me. And like you said, it worked out.
Oh yeah. And do you remember what was the very first thing you shot when you had the new red camera, or was it, and then what was your favorite project when you were working on it?
Yeah, I do actually. And it's funny. It's an ode to kind of what we're talking about. Like everything comes back to automotive. I picked up the camera. I took it home. I remember shooting clips of my now fiance and our little Chihuahua, like filming clips around the house. And then I called my buddy Tim Tran. He had a twin turbo R8 that he like.
Really?
Yeah. He bought it from like a salvage yard, I think, because it was wrecked. It didn't have doors on it, and he like pieced it back together, but it already had the twin turbo kit on it. I remember calling him. I'm like, hey, are you working on that thing tonight? He was like, yeah. And I said, hey, I bought this new crazy camera. Can I come just film clips of you working on it? And he was putting like this carbon skin over the whole car.
Oh, really?
And it was crazy because it was like in all these different pieces. And to me, I'm like looking at this crazy luxury car I'm like, that's the same motor as a Lambo that's in that thing. It's got twin turbos on it, and it's just like laying in pieces, and you're putting carbon all over it. It was crazy. So I filmed him that night, mixing epoxy and putting carbon pieces on. And those are the first clips I shot with the camera.
That's awesome. I mean, sometimes there's no replacement for displacement. There's something nice about having a V10 in a car.
It was cool. And then slap some turbos on it, and it's incredible. Crazy. It's great. I think it was a Hefner kit, and the car made like 900. It was a cool car, and it was gated too.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Oh, if I remember
as
correctly.
They should be, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's so hard to find them. And I think this year's the last, they're doing a Halo edition, really nice, all out. I think it's the last year for the Audi R8.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
they might be going electric.
I was just saying, I know
last year
rolling
for the V10.
Yep. Yeah, it'll fall under their e-tron series. So, yeah, it's kind of crazy, and it's what all the OEMs are doing.
Yeah.
So it's, like you said, there's no replacement for displacement. But man, I've driven some of these EVs, and they're sick.
Oh, I mean,
really cool.
I mean, it's hard to be. I mean, it's a supercomputer on wheels, like a Tesla Model Plaid. I mean, it's 0 to 60. Is it under like 2 seconds? Is it 1.9?
I think it's 1.9.
It's insane.
Yeah. The instant torque you get from one of those.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been in.
Oh yeah, I have.
Even the P100s when they launch, it's like you feel all the blood go to the back of your head.
Oh no, not one of those.
It's nuts.
I've heard really good things at the Porsche Taycan too.
Yeah, those are cool.
Especially because the way I don't know if there's software or it's a combination of software hardware, but you could hit that thing, you could punch that accelerator, and you'll get the same acceleration throughout the whole life of the battery, like even if you're at 100% or 20%.
Oh, cool.
Whereas other competitors, like, if you only have 50%, they're going to naturally limit your speed and your acceleration no matter how hard you punch that pedal.
Yeah, there's definitely like some battery discrepancies, or I think like all the OEMs right now are just trying to figure out like how to rate things. Like, how do you rate towing capacity on a electric vehicle when you know that it's going to drain the battery?
Oh, yeah.
Even if, I think the Hummer is a good example.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, it has 14,000, I think it's some crazy metric, like 13,000 foot-pounds of torque. And it's like, does it, or is that just like how much you can turn the battery up? Or are you going to use that towing? Or what about towing distance, and how much does that drain the battery? Like, everybody's trying to figure out how to market these things right now. And I've gotten to drive a lot of them, and I've gotten to even work with marketing a bunch of them.
Oh, cool.
And it's interesting to see, you know, who's kind of winning in the space, and who, like, you know, Ford is doing a lot of cool stuff with marketing EVs too.
Oh yeah.
And then you got companies like Kia. Like Kia's doing amazing stuff, and eventually going to have an all EV lineup.
Oh yeah.
And you know, you wouldn't think over the 5 years ago, I wouldn't think Kia would be rebranding and doing that, but like you get in their new EVs and they're sweet. Like daily driver wise, it's hard to beat that kind of comfort and tech.
Absolutely. That's probably one of the best turnaround companies, and probably one of the best turnaround examples in automotive history.
Absolutely.
Was it 15 years ago? They had a CEO from Volkswagen or Audi group. They actually went over to become the CEO of that group, and he turned the whole thing around, because it used to be it used to be the butt of a lot of jokes at like talk shows.
Just a budget Korean car brand, you know?
Like Jay Leno had jokes like, oh yeah, you'd be more reliable just taking a bobsled down the street. It's like, but no, they revamped. At the time, I think it was, trying to think when I was selling cars, but they had the best warranty in the industry. It's like 10-year, 100,000 miles.
Yep.
All the interiors were pretty similar to an Audi. Like, you had nice leather, heated and cool seats were standard on everything. Like, so they've come a long way in terms of really revamping the whole brand. So
it's nuts. And what they did with the Telluride, like that's the hottest selling car right now, you know? And then the Sorrentos are super nice. Then you get into the EV6s. I mean, like you said, their turnaround is one of the biggest in the industry.
Oh, great.
And like all their JD Power scores are through the roof. Like they're absolutely crushing it.
Oh, they're doing great. And I love how they still have some fun cars too, like the Velociraptor. I like having a good old stick shift, a little small car.
Oh yeah. Veloster. Yeah. Those look fun. I've seen people mod those, and apparently you can do a lot to turn them up past factory.
Oh yeah.
And they're really, really fast.
Well, that's how every engine should be designed. It's like, oh yeah, you got the factory rated, but make it strong enough so you can, bolt on as much fun toys as you want to.
Some people do it, and then other factories don't. Like some of these new cars, you can't get in the ECUs, you can't unlock anything. It's interesting to see from the performance side where things go, and to like my position now. I started off shooting performance automotive, and now I'm working more on the OEM side. So get gamed up on that side and seeing it from the manufacturer perspective on what to do, what not to do. Cars like the Toyota Supra that have this like performance legacy, like as Toyota, how do you launch this car and promote it as a sports car, especially like the whole auto versus manual. Everybody cried and complained when they came out and they were auto.
Automatic only, for the first 2 or 3 years of production, I forget.
I drove one. The auto's great. It's so good. I tracked it here at Crescent. It was amazing. And then they dropped the manual on everybody.
The GR version. Oh yeah,
which is great too.
Brilliant marketing. I mean, everyone wanted it, and I mean, there's something just legendary and just timeless about manual transmission, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I'll go on a mini rant about the Supra, because I remember it launched and everybody's like, it's a BMW. They're right. It's a lot of BMW parts.
Engine,
B58
transmission, interior.
That B58's a BMW motor.
Yeah.
But,
Straight six.
The 2JZ was actually a motor manufactured by Yamaha.
Yeah.
So that wasn't even a Toyota motor, development-wise.
People forget that.
Yeah. And then the B58's an inline six turbo. That I don't know if you've seen, but like even the BMWs, like kids are buying Supras and 340i's with B58s and doing downpipe in a tune and making like 500 foot-pounds of torque.
Oh, it's incredible. Like at ECR or Eagle Canyon Raceway, Toyota has their own garage there. And every time I go, they have that program where you just walk up, sign a waiver, and they'll have a professional instructor. They'll drive you around the track in one of the Supras.
Yep.
It is a fun experience. Right? Oh, they're amazing. Oh, yeah.
They're so good. We shoot up there a lot. Like we just did the Toyota GR commercial.
Oh, really?
For their social media. So we had Corolla, Supra, the GR86 also. Oh, yeah. So we're super familiar with that track, and I've gotten to see how all those cars operate and move, and like the Supra's an amazing car. So it's funny to see how much flack it got, and then it ends up being a kind of industry titan regarding performance cars like the original one was.
And I read one article that, so I know like the BMW Z4, which is kind of the base for it. I was reading how, so I gave Toyota a lot of credit for listening to the customers. So they came out the the manual transmission, but they also had to do all the engineering in-house from the ground up. Is one article I was reading about.
Yeah.
So they had to actually do that all themselves.
Yep.
And they did it just for the fans and the customers, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And last time I was at the track, because they have the NASA program, so everyone who buys a new Supra or a Toyota 86, you get the 1-year membership for free for the North America Track Association. And then you also get like a 1-day actual program.
Yeah.
So every time we go to the track for the NASA event, you'll see like all the new people from Toyota or the new owners. And I was walking past a couple of Supras last time I was there, and I saw 2 with the stick shift, and it just made me smile. Like, all right, on the track, as they're intended to be. Like, keeping the racing spirit alive and getting new people into it is just awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Toyota's doing probably the best job. Ford's doing an amazing job too. And
absolutely.
I get to work with a lot of their athletes and stuff over the years. Obviously with Ken, rest in peace. Ken was a big pioneer for that on the performance automotive side. Did a lot for the brand. I had the pleasure of getting to work with him a couple times. And
oh, really? What's your favorite project you worked with him on?
We went and shot some stage rally. My buddy Matt, who pretty much did all of his rally stuff, brought me out to shoot some stage rally stuff. And so I just got to shoot Ken prepping for a stage rally race and his escort. And it was absolutely bonkers. Like how fast he is in the car. And two, just like shooting stage rally is a whole different monster. And you really got to love it to go do it. And I've only done it a handful of times.
What was it like to shoot it? Or what kind of extra steps or variables were taken into account?
You get your camera, you get your backpack with all your stuff, and you just start walking. And you walk a couple miles, you find a corner you like, you wait, you listen for him to come. Sometimes you can hear on the walkie, sometimes you can't. And you pick a good tree to hide behind in case something goes wrong. You know, you got to be smart about the spot and understand the physics of the car and where things can go. Or maybe the car could float outside here, so you don't want to be out on the outside of the turn, or you may get sprayed with rocks if you're at this part, which hurts like hell too.
I can imagine.
So you get a shot, and then on a practice day, he'll run back the same direction, so I'll get a shot, then I'll walk, then you get another shot, then you walk, then you get another shot. So it's this slow, you're just out in the woods. It's crazy.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's definitely a unique experience. That's got to be almost surreal where, you're going from the racetrack where you got hundreds, thousands of spectators, it's loud, everyone's cheering, and you're going to this nice, peaceful forest in the middle of nowhere, and then every once in a while, get a car that, it comes by.
And you're this far away from them,
Oh, really?
Depending on how you're shooting it. But again, I like wide angle lenses, which means you got to get close to the action. So that real fast whip, kind of hectic footage is what I like to shoot. And Matt was same way. He gets the best rally footage of anybody I've seen. So it was a pleasure to go shoot with him and Ken. And that day was one I'll never forget, watching him fly through the woods. I mean, a foot away from him doing 80 miles per hour through through trees. Yeah. It's crazy.
That's incredible.
It's cool. He was a pioneer for the automotive space, and had the skills to back it up for sure.
Absolutely. I've lost track of the number of hours of just staring at the amazing feats he was able to achieve. It's oh my, it almost looks superhuman. I mean, that you can do that with a vehicle.
That whole crew of guys is awesome. All the Gymkhana guys. I'm lucky enough to be friends with a lot of the people that work on those videos, and have gotten to shoot other projects with them. And marketing wise, it's there's nothing bigger. I think the Gymkhana series is the most viewed series on YouTube, or at one point it was, if it's not anymore. But it's nuts. So to that, Ford starting with that, and now with all the Mustang content with guys like RTR, Chelsea, Denofa, Von Gittin Jr., and now Adam LZ, marketing that. And then Toyota has, they use all their drifter guys to come out with these crazy commercials to
marketing.
They're keeping performance automotive alive in a world that's pushing towards
computers.
Yeah. Well, young kids aren't into cars as much anymore. So it's interesting. How do we, from the performance wise, it's how do we capture them and bring them in? But again, I'm now working on the more OEM side. So it's this kind of crazy cross up of how do we market to people that just need daily drivers, and what do they want in a car nowadays?
It's almost it's such a foreign concept with some of the young drivers, or the young folks. So my nephew, he was just old enough where he could have got a driver's license a couple years ago. And I was having, dinner with the extended family a while back. and I think he was 18. He still didn't have a driver's license. I'm like, why not? He's like, I want to drive. I'm like, how do you gain? He goes, Uber. I'm like, don't you want the freedom and the feeling of taking the parents' car out now? He's like, no, just Uber's fast. I order on my phone, done.
Yeah, it's crazy. Right. That's a common thing I've seen in a lot of younger generation people. They don't want to drive. They don't care to drive. Yeah. They want to Uber, or like, they're not them. Maybe it's their kids. Maybe it's sooner. They're not going to drive.
Yeah.
Like
it's gonna be bizarre
with full self-driving capabilities and whatnot, which I'm not anti it at all. I think a lot of people get very anti that. I think it's cool. I'd rather sit and be on my phone or something and have a car drive me to destination or get work done. But
efficiency.
I still want to keep my race cars and be able to go to the racetrack too. So
it's all about the situation. I mean, I think it's advanced a lot. Eventually it will replace a lot of jobs, but new jobs are always created. I mean, it's kind of the cliche. It's like, you're in a story job, so you're going to create so many more.
Yeah.
That we don't even know exist. So I like with trucking, that's going to revolutionize them. Mm-hmm. With automotive, I mean, I don't know. I'm one of those mentalities where like when I'm behind the wheel, I want the experience. So like I love like even if I'm going just going to Fort Worth for a day for a customer meeting, like just shift into the gears. It's a fun experience for me.
For sure.
But at the same time, I know for some folks you have to commute every day, especially if you have a stick shift. That can get old when you're in bumper to bumper for an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
Which I would also argue stick is perfect because you're forced to pay attention. You can't really, be on the phone or multitasking when you got to disengage that clutch, every couple of feet.
But we're purists.
That's true. We're a dying breed.
Most people, they want to do the least amount as possible. Exactly. And even me today, like I've got my drift car now that's just this visceral, violent, raw, no assist.
Mechanical.
It's a Corvette engine stuffed in a 240 SX.
That's awesome.
It's a tin can chassis that weighs 2,300 pounds with this torque monster in it. Yeah, it's an assault on your senses. Yeah. So like, I go to the track and I get that. I'm okay with hopping in my SUV and just so it's like I can kind of
best of both worlds.
Yeah, I kind of split it. I've got a 370Z that I also like daily drive, so it's I get my kind of like rip around sports car feel. So I got the luxury to float a little bit.
Got some options.
Absolutely.
Some of my buddies keep telling me I eventually need to succumb to buying a bigger vehicle and just to transport logistics for some work stuff that we do with my tech company. And I'm like, okay, kind of just be a smart aleck. I'm like, what can I get with a stick shift? They're like, it's a very rare Porsche Cayman where they had a stick shift for it.
There you go.
I think they only imported like 253 in the U.S. Like,
oh, geez.
V8 twin turbo. Like, good luck finding them, but it does exist. I'm like, I would love that, but like
that's right up my alley.
Like that would be because I want to, part of me always wants to have a unique, cool car, and I'm such a diehard stick shift fan. It's like a stick shift SUV that would be pretty with a Porsche. I mean, that would be fun.
Be cool. You could be like me and just buy a whole, but like I've got 2 Nissans that aren't that expensive, and then I've got my SUV that's reliable, and it's an Audi, so it's a lot nicer. So I've opted for the. Like instead of the one very expensive car, I've got 3 cars that 2 aren't that expensive, and then one's semi-nice. Not semi-nice, it is nice.
And then what was it? So what were you driving? So back when you're working for yourself for a little while, and then how did you keep finding those new jobs? Back in the day when you had your first consulting firm, or when you worked for yourself, were you doing cold calling, referrals, Facebook?
Oh man, it was all referrals.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I would reach out here and there, but like obviously social media started to become a thing, and being at least with the racing and stuff, it was and wakeboarding too. Like I got super into filming wakeboarding and boating stuff. So people with boats have money in companies. People in racing have money in companies, or sponsors are there and need coverage, or it all kind of spider webbed from that. And I never did as good as I should have, probably, because I was so focused on just making the content and filming it and editing it. But it was all, I like to call it pull marketing, versus push marketing, like pushing myself on, you need this, you need that, you need this. It's great and it works. From a perspective of video, I always liked having clients gravitate towards me, because then they were coming to me in need of something, instead of me convincing them that I needed it, which, sometimes it's, hey, we need this. And you can convince them, yes, you need this, but you should do this, this, and this. There's always the upsell, right?
Of course. But, depending on, it's all about what does their business or what does their brand want to achieve. If they want to get a certain result, you might need to add in extra shots or, a different scenery or a certain type of different editing methodology or performance.
Yeah, more content.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all, everybody's trying to sell a product and experience, and it's like, how does it all fit into that sales funnel, which I was lucky to understand that decently well out of school. But I'll call myself a creative, but like I've always looked at it through the eyes of like what's going to generate good ROI for the company, because I want them to feel good about the money that they're investing in what I'm doing for them.
Keep customers happy, they'll keep you happy. And then what was it like when you started to work for a couple other consultants, or you worked with another small shop in Dallas, or what was it like to kind of pivot from, only working for yourself to working with a team, or what was the process like?
My kind of, storyline is filming Formula Drift for a few years. Nate and I have our shop together. We're doing racing stuff. I'm kind of just like a one-off, like freelance videographer, but taking on projects, from the start to the end to full fruition. And I ended up starting to shoot more boat stuff, and that's how I met some of my old business partners. They would call me to shoot for them, and eventually I started a company with these guys. We started like a full service agency. Oh, cool. So I went from filming racing to now working with this agency and still filming some of that stuff. But now my focus was on this whole ecosystem of marketing, because we did website, we did graphic design, we did SEO.
Oh, really?
And video was just like a part of that. And that's what I was, in charge of as the partner in the company. So, but that, we took that and kind of built out, again, the whole ecosystem of how marketing should be. So it was new to me-ish, because I was only just focused on video, but I knew that it was an important part of a bigger piece. And so we all just started working together and decided, let's make a company and build it up to, provide the service in full to clients. And that's what we did.
Awesome. And then was it more expansive, or was it more topics than automotive, or what kind of stuff did you film? What was it like working with new material or new subjects?
It was cool. Like, it wasn't automotive. Outside of like, we did a lot of stuff for some boat brands, which was cool. So it's like, I still had, a hobby that I was familiar with working with, and my business partners were familiar with too. But a lot of it was just corporate video, I mean, we shot stuff for nail companies, law firms, more
like promotional videos for their businesses for them to advertise. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it'd be marketing videos or internal videos, or we'd be doing a website and they would need an about us video. So again, it was just filling in that whole ecosystem of what a company needed or what problem they needed solved. Yeah. So it was for anything and everything, basically.
So how did you film working on the boats? Did you have a second boat with a camera, or was it a drone, or what was that process like?
Yeah, I mean, I used a lot of drones. I would get, it was funny because we'd film all these brand new boats that weren't even out yet. So I'd have 10 of them and my team, and they'd just be like, go. So I've got millions of dollars in boats. I'd take one and I'd rig like this camera suspension rig to where I'd sit and shoot with a remote control, pointing the camera at the other boat that people were surfing or wakeboarding behind. So it was just literally, we'd go to some lake in Northern California or somewhere in that area for a week and just shoot all day, every day with all their athletes and stuff. It was a grind, but it was fun.
That's awesome.
It was cool. We had a bunch of toys, a bunch of gear, a bunch of my buddies that would come out and help film, and it kicked our butt every year, but the content always came out good.
Then I think I might have skipped over this, or might have to go back. When did you first build your first dedicated camera car, where you have the giant, I forget the proprietary name, but the crane on top of the car?
Yeah. Like I call it a camera car, but that's what I tell people. It's a crane that sits on top of a car. It's, so while I was at that, while we were building our agency, I was still filming automotive stuff here and there. But basically the camera car that I built, a company called Moto Crane came out and built the crane system. And normally you'd have to create that yourself. So like the guys that did this stuff, they had teams of fabricators. They were big companies. These camera cars cost $500,000 to run.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're
$500,000 for a car.
Yeah, and they're building them all custom themselves.
Yeah.
So it's all the crane and equipment, and they're putting them on Raptors and CTSVs, and so it's this big investment, right? And then I see Moto Crane launch their first crane that comes out, which at the time I think it was a 9-foot arm. You could suction cup it to the top of a roop and strap it on to any car is what they advertised. Yeah. And I remember looking at them like, that's cool. Yeah. I want one of those one day because, I'd only seen these camera cars in movies and stuff. And I was like, that's what I want to do. So I'm working at the agency, working with them, still filming stuff. Then Moto Crane comes out with a second iteration of the arm. This one much better, it's longer, it's got more power. And financially at the time, I was like, I kind of did what I did with my Red. I was all right, I'm going to send it. And I want to build one of these things because it'll be good for me. It'll be good for our company to advertise.
And when you say more power, is it just better hydraulics to move it up or down? Or
more
what
torque. Because so this new one, which I literally still have to this day, I think I bought it 5 years ago now. It's a 12-foot arm that reaches out over the car.
12 feet?
12 feet.
Is that from the center of the car, or how's it measured?
From the center.
Oh my gosh.
So you got a couple more feet off the back. With like
counterbalanced.
Counterbalance. It's got a wing that kind of balances wind resistance while the arm's out to the side. So it's all sorts of crazy like physics and stuff to keep the motors from working too hard. So you counterbalance, front and back, so that way the motors don't have too much torque applied on them, don't have to work as hard, and then from side to side you have that wing to balance that out.
Really? And what was it like installing? What was the first thing vehicle you installed it on?
So I remember I ordered the arm. Again, I did like my Red. I was just like, I'm going to figure this out, figured out how to finance it, and basically put my deposit down. And I think it was like 3 months for them to get it to me because I wasn't one of the first people to buy it, but I was one of the early adopters. So they were going through manufacturing rounds. And I bought it, and I was like, crap, I need to put this on a car. And I wanted to build something cool. Like everybody usually puts them on SUVs, which is cool. But I wanted to build something that was going to be marketable. And like whenever I posted it up, people would freak out over something that was fast because I had all these drifting clients. So I was like, you can't cheat drifting. You can't just, follow these cars and make it look fast. You can't speed it up because then it looks weird. You have to have something that's capable. So I ended up buying a 2003 Evo 8.
Oh, really?
For the camera car, yeah.
Nice.
Which I got crucified by the Evo community because I drilled holes in the roof and built a custom rack for it. People were not happy about that. But at the time, it was the most capable and I like to say quickest camera car in the world.
Yeah.
Now you got Trackhawks with arms on them and stuff. But
oh, really?
Yeah, but regarding capability, the chassis it was light. It was all-wheel drive. It made about 400 horsepower. BC Racing ended up making some custom shocks for the car. I had a buddy's wrap shop, Fortune Wraps. They sponsored it, wrapped the whole car.
Nice. We
had lightweight wheels on it. It was really the most capable car you could chase anything with because of how quick it turned and maneuvered.
And what's the weight distribution like? 'Cause that's a pretty light car, and then you're putting the crane on it.
I actually don't know. Well, I don't know what the weight distribution was.
But how did it feel? I guess how did it handle differently once you bolt that thing on?
I mean, it's definitely not as good as when you don't have a crane and 4 film dudes in the car operating stuff. But again, BC helped us out by getting us custom valved and springs for these shocks. It really made the car as best as it could be. And I truly believe that that car at its peak was the fastest, quickest camera car in the world at the time. And we did some crazy stuff with it.
That's awesome. Tell me about the crew that we need to operate it. You say you got 4 guys in the car to make it all come together or make it work in real time?
Yep, correct. So you've got a driver. You have the arm operator, like the crane operator. So they're swinging and moving the crane up and down.
They got a little remote control, I'm guessing, to actuate everything.
It's like a giant Game Boy, basically.
Oh, really?
2 joysticks for your Y and your X axis. Yeah. Then you have the head operator, which you have a gimbal on the end holding the camera. They're operating the gimbal, pointing the camera.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you're swinging an arm, you have somebody else pointing the camera.
Oh, jeez.
And then you have an AC, assistant camera, which those guys, an AC on a movie set, those are the guys that are pulling focus. They're doing the focus and marks and zoom and all that. So while I'm swinging the arm, the head tech is pointing the camera while the AC is making sure it's all in focus, while the driver is making sure we get the shot and we don't die.
Oh my gosh. That's a lot of things going on.
It's pretty hectic. And it's funny because, obviously I love driving. I love drifting. I love driving race cars, but I hate riding passenger.
Oh, really?
In cars. So I literally built my worst nightmare by building the car. And I didn't think it through. So we'd go on these shoots where we're, chasing drift cars through explosions and stuff. And I'm sitting there trying to operate the arm or the camera. And
oh my gosh.
At the same time, I'm like I'm trying to focus on the shot and not look up because we're flying on some racetrack and I'm scared we're going to crash. It was hectic.
Oh my gosh, that's
to say
so
the
exciting.
least.
And then, was it built in such ways that you could just plug on any camera and you run wires down to the controls, or?
Yeah, pretty much. Like the arm system is its own little ecosystem, and then you have a mount for the gimbal you run. There's 2 different types of gimbals we run from 2 different manufacturers, depending on how big the camera package is, and you just kind of know the little ins and outs. It's like, okay, it's a red camera, and we're going to use the DJI Ronin 2 for this, so we've got these little plugs and things for start, stop, or operating, or we use a Movi XL, which is FreeFly's big gimbal that you can run huge cameras on, and say it's an ARRI on that one. So I've got all sorts of plugs and cables and things to adapt it to whatever we need.
Oh, cool. And then what was your first shoot with that setup?
The first shoot was actually a Roush shoot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we went out all the way to Ohio, and actually Aaron Kaufman from Gas Monkey was the stunt driver on that.
No way.
Yeah, for I think it was called a Nightmare Edition F-150.
Yeah.
Some like crazy supercharged truck, and the city was Hamilton, Ohio. We did 2 overnight shoots, and I remember trailering the Evo all the way up there. My buddy Jordan, who lives in Utah, he owned a similar system, and I flew him out to come kind of work with us and operate with us, since it was kind of the first job that we had run.
Yeah.
So he came out and drove while I operated the arm, and we actually had their own AC and head tech operate. Basically like the DP, director of photography for the commercial. He wanted to operate the head, so we were just there to provide the camera car and tech everything, and we just ripped around this little town from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. 2 nights in a row chasing this truck around. It was crazy.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was cool.
And then what was your favorite shoot, or what was the most memorable shoot that you had with that Evo setup?
I think the most memorable is probably one we did with our buddies at RTR, which is Vaughn Gittin Jr. and Chelsea Denofa. They're the pro drifters that run RTR, and they're similar to Roush in a way that nowadays you can go to a Ford dealership and you buy a Mustang, and you can go, okay, I want the stage 3 RTR package, which is a supercharger, a body kit, the wheels, RTR suspension, or you can do it with a Ranger.
Nice.
All sorts of stuff. They got really cool stuff, and I really think they have the best packages for Mustangs right now.
Yeah.
But anyways, we went out to West Virginia with them to shoot a video called Bomb Track. And it's basically, they also have a brand called Fun Haver, which is this off-road performance, still drifting lifestyle brand. They sell clothes and stuff too. And it's all, again, about them having fun. So it was this Fun Haver RTR shoot. We went to this training facility in West Virginia that had a racetrack on it, but they trained a lot of FBI, military training and stuff there. So we were jumping Baja trucks, there's drift cars, and the big shot at the end, we have Lauren's, it's an Ultra 4 truck is what it is, jump over Chelsea and Vaughn's drift cars as they're drifting, and there's just a massive amount of pyrotechnics behind them. This big explosion. Yeah, it was nuts. Michael Bay shared it on his Instagram story.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it put the stamp that we were legit with the pyrotechnics on it. Yeah, I just remember doing that. And we're the cars are drifting and the camera car's driving out in front of them while it's happening. So it's we got to make sure we're clear of the truck jumping over so we don't get hit by the truck, and we got to be out of the way of the explosion. And it was just a crazy couple days.
Was there a lot of I mean, there's an infinite amount of explosives. How much pressure was it to get it done in 1 or 2 shots, or how much extra explosive?
We did 2. We knew there would be 2 takes, but like we were shooting a whole video, so like we were already through a whole day of like 80-mile-per-hour drifting with us in front of them. So the shot itself, it's funny, it wasn't as like scary driving wise because we were doing crazy stuff. We did an overnight shoot where we shot a whole separate video, basically in the dark, where we had their cars all lit up with their sponsor Type S's lighting and stuff. That was crazy. It looked like Tron.
Oh, cool.
That was probably the scariest one because we like couldn't see. You know, we had to go off of headlights, and we're doing 80, 90 miles per hour on a track with these cars drifting. So the explosion was more of a timing thing, and like we got to nail it.
Oh yeah.
So we got it. I remember Chelsea was in the car behind, and he said the explosion would blow the doors open on his Mustang every time it went off. Really? It was that like crazy, and we could feel it from inside the car, and we're like 50 yards in front if we time it right. So it was intense for sure. That's definitely the most, I think, memorable with the camera car that we experienced.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can't imagine all that pressure. It's like you get 2 opportunities to make the shot work.
Those guys, you know, I'm lucky to have those guys call me because it's always like the craziest, most fun, but also the most sketchy stuff. It's always like these crazy clips that we get from everything. We just did another video with them, which was basically like the version 2 of Tron. We did it at a place called Drift Mansion. It's in, I can't remember. I think it's Missouri. We flew in, brought the crane, put it on one of Vaughn's supercharged trucks, and basically did 2 overnight shoots again. Lauren jumped over the backyard of a house and over the pool and through the fence. And
no way.
There's a crazy jump over them to a more pyro, and T-Pain made a song for the video. It was just
nice.
They're just always up to crazy fun stuff, and it's cool. They've really built cool branding and cool content around it, and I'm lucky to be a part of it.
That's awesome. And speaking of cool branding, tell me a little bit more about what inspired you to kind of jumpstart and join and really help foster the Wolfpack Agency.
Yeah, so my current role now, I'm the executive vice president of the Wolfpack Agency. You know, to go through timeline, like built my camera car, wanted to get back into automotive heavily, sold my bit of the company that I had built, left, was focusing on the camera car, which I built my brand Speed Patrol, and was running around doing stuff like that all the time, which was a lot of fun. And I was actually in Dubai with one of my best friends, Pepper Yandel. He was living out there. He's a car photographer, takes some of the best car photos in the world. He brought me out to shoot a video with Lamborghini and this PPF company. So we were out there running around shooting Lambos and using the Lambo to get around. And,
nice.
I went out there and I was like, who do I know in Dubai besides Pepper? And kind of the long story short of it is my current business partner, Nick, was out there working for an agency running their automotive branch in the Middle East. And I had been friends with his wife just through like various people that we knew when we were younger. And I knew that they had gotten married, you know, a while ago. And I had met Nick, but Nick would have Melissa, his wife, call me and help like staff events or stuff that he was doing. She'd call and be like, hey, Nick wants to know if you know any people in this city or that city to run this Audi drive experience or do it, or whatever he was up to at the time. Yeah. And so through proxy, him and I had kind of been working together, or I'd been helping him out, and they were living in Dubai because Nick was running the Middle Eastern program over there for the agency he was at. So we went to dinner, hit it off, stayed in touch. He ended up moving back to Texas, wanted to start his own thing, prepped me on it, and basically they Wolfpack acquired Speed Patrol, the entity, and he brought me on board as the EVP. We've got another partner, Megan, who's our chief creative officer. She's in LA. She's amazing, makes some amazing stuff. And we hit the ground running November of not last year, 21.
Oh, awesome.
We announced, you know, the Wolfpack to the world, and it's been, you know, a grind of a year through 22, and now it's been crazy. We've launched, and we're busier than ever.
That's great. Especially, so what was the very first project you guys worked on together? Or was the very first deal?
I'm trying to think. We've done a lot recently, big and small. Like we've worked with a company that, basically acquires, you can sell your vehicle to them. Like you can sell your used vehicle before you trade. Like that was one of our first clients.
Oh, cool.
We did some cool stuff with BMW.
Oh, wow, really?
A GT4 race team, to where I flew out to Thermal Club and shot like some promo with a race team there with a buddy of ours, Jordan, who was going over to Europe to run DTM.
Oh, wow. That's got to be exciting.
We've got a lot of things in the works with big manufacturers.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, we're working and doing camera car support, production support for Toyota, for autonomous 18-wheeler company we shot some stuff with too. So, and then a lot of experiential marketing as well.
Yeah. So what's it like working with a big OEM, and how do you get those introductions to those massive prestigious companies?
I mean, it's just track record, right? So like, Nick's Wolfpack is Nick's baby. He's had that vision, for a long time, and of who he wants to bring on. So between, me, him, and Megan, we've worked with a lot of big OEMs, and all in our own kind of realms. The big thing for us we wanted to do is build an agency where the creatives are at the table. We're not charging you for 20 account directors to pay for our big fancy building.
Yeah.
We house everyone in. We're lean, we're mean, we're, SEAL Team 6. We go in, we execute, and bring the people to the table that get stuff done, instead of just marking up a whole bunch of third-party contractors. And we have strategic partnerships all over the industry. So between all the people that I know, all the people that Nick's worked with, all the people that Megan's worked with, we came into this with a reputation, and all of us kind of having different sectors down, to where us banding together and knowing who we know now, we've just hit the ground running and haven't stopped.
Yeah. What was the biggest challenge you guys in the team has first come across as the company's starting to grow and develop and take on more complex projects?
I mean, launching a company in a pandemic.
Yeah,
right?
It's not easy.
Yeah, that's kind of, I think our biggest brag is we did this all during a pandemic when everyone was scared to spend marketing dollars. Nobody knew what was going to happen next. And we were able to thrive during that.
That's rare.
It's rare. It says a lot about our team, the people we work with. And really it's all we're trying to do is solve problems. We're not selling fancy, shining things. We go to the table and we're creative problem solvers at the end of the day. Yeah. So the pandemic in our eyes was a issue that we wanted to help these OEMs, or just any other company that we work with, solve problems during. So create innovative ways to market, innovative ways to get people to be in front of the brands or consume the brand.
And then, out of curiosity, so what's your favorite project thus far that you're allowed to disclose or talk about?
Oh, man.
I know you've had a lot of really good stories.
I say there's we're working on a lot of cool stuff I can't talk about right now. I'm trying to think. I mean, the Thermal Club project with BMW was super fun. Getting to work on experiential marketing now. To go back to my background, I've always just been video, directing video. I started my first company, and that was kind of my first taste and run at. And I was there for 5 years. I got the grasp of the full marketing ecosystem. So, but that was, that's just a traditional agency that's just like, we offer SEO, we offer social media, and we'll make you a video. To where now we're going into buildings and headquarters and meeting with executive teams that are asking us or saying they want to collab with us on how they can shift and change brands, and shift and change consumer bases. Yeah. And it's not just, we need a video. Yeah. It's again, an even bigger ecosystem of creating change in these companies and actually trying to do better to get new consumers for them. So
that's one of the biggest challenges in marketing is expanding your customer base and then trying to shift it to a different demographic. I mean, I remember for decades, Cadillac, it used to be, you know, one of the most innovative companies. They used to have the best tech or best features for any other brand. And then, you know, over the years, it kind of became a cliche where they're tailored to more of the elderly folks who are buying their vehicles.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the biggest marketing innovations was they teamed up with the production team of The Matrix, just for that, because they had a huge, what was it, the Art and Renaissance chapter of their art and design, which is what I think it was what they called their iteration of the brand. And all, like, the first CTSV, I think for a while, was in the movie.
Yeah.
And all that advertising helped them decrease the age of the average consumer by about 10 years, which, you know, that's a huge achievement.
And that's the stuff I love about it. Like, and that's a great example of what I'm talking about. You know, let's put this car in this movie and get eyes on it under this light. You know, that's the experiential side that's super fun that we're getting to do that I really enjoy.
Oh, it's fascinating, the art and science behind all the product placements. I know, like, when Fast and Furious first came out, have you ever watched I think it's Rich Lieberman? He was the technical advisor for the movie. I might be butchering his name, but
That name sounds familiar, but
it was his Supra in the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was the guy telling people, like, hey, this is what's really going on with street racing.
That's cool.
And on his YouTube channel, which is really great, I recommend people check it out.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I want to watch that.
He has so many detailed, good stories. One of my favorite ones is when you're talking about the business aspect of the movie. And when they were first making the movie, they had a script, and they were going around. They go, hey, we need, you know, nitrous, we need glow, you know, for the neon under the car, we need all these things. So he went to all the manufacturers. He was saying, hey, we're making a movie. Will you give us some stuff? They're like, we don't even know who you are. We don't care if it's made by Universal. Just, no, we're not going to give you anything for free. So they had to actually buy everything. So, like, a lot of the gauges in the movie, they're just, you know, cardboard cutouts. You know, they're not real.
I've seen all the kind of Easter eggs in Fast and Furious. Like, sometimes, like, some of the cars that are made for process trailers, like, you look and there's no brakes on them.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Like, I think that's the same with the VW Golf.
Yeah.
I
think it was that one.
The white
didn't
one.
have brakes, and some of the gauges will be off. It's funny to go back and look at.
And then he was telling, like, during that interview, he said, then when they started the second Fast and Furious movie, when he called manufacturers, they were throwing products at them. Because he was saying, like, for the particular people who don't know, nitrous is a brand, or NOS, sorry, is the brand name behind the biggest manufacturer. And he was telling them after the first movie, he was working with the manufacturer to get, you know, free stuff for the next movie, which they, of course, gave to him for free. They were telling Rich, like, later in his career, he's like, yeah, we couldn't keep products ahead of demand for over 3 years.
Yeah, because
like, astonishing.
They effectively made it's like Kleenex, right?
Yeah,
Kleenex is a brand.
Yes,
and tissue paper is what you do.
Exactly.
So it's funny because it's like a pet peeve for some people. They're like, oh, do you have NOS? It's like, it's nitrous.
Yeah,
and NOS is the company, but that's one of those quirky marketing things that happened to where everybody called it NOS after that movie.
I mean, some would say that's the pinnacle achievement of marketing, is when you could have the actual brand be synonymous with the category.
Yeah.
Like, no one searches for something, they Google something.
Yep.
It's just because that company, that brand has built up such a reputation where just the act of searching for information on the internet, that's their brand. They invented it. Like, that's incredible to do, especially the automotive space. I mean, now it's everyone. If you're going to use the brand, it's NOS. That's all you use.
That's a good point to, you know, that I honestly haven't thought about. Like, I've acknowledged that everybody says NOS instead of nitrous, but I haven't really thought through that. Like, that is attributed to that movie.
Oh, it's fascinating, and of course, all the cars in the movies. Of course, you know, people see the cars, they want to go out and buy them. It's fascinating how important and how much of a tool marketing is with product placements and all of that coming together.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like, our job is to create irrational loyalty to these brands that we work with. People that are going to come, stick around, and not leave. You know, that's always our goal.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's just, what cool, quirky, fun way can we accomplish that?
Yeah. It's just all about what's going to make the best long-term brand connection for the best customer experience.
Yeah, for sure. And with the new role too, it's been really neat to shift from, you know, heading just video to now producing, directing video, but being involved with these big grand plans for companies.
So what was it like making that pivotal kind of career move, or that new role, going from, you know, being right behind the camera, right behind the editing screen, to more of a leadership position. What was that process like, and what do you like about it?
I'd say, like, you know, at my first company, I was in a leadership position. We had employees, you know, but I was hyper focused on content, but still saw what went on for these customers we market to. But now it's going to these are big companies that we get to work with, and being put in a position to learn, but it's felt like more affirming what I know, you know, and having such good partners that we all learn from each other. We all collaborate very well, and we go to these companies and collaborate with them. It's been a really fun process. It's one that if you told me, you know, 6 or 7 years ago I'd be doing, it would sound really daunting and scary, you know, but I eat, sleep, and breathe this space, you know, so I'm just excited to shift cultures and trends in the space that are going to affect, you know, kids down the road, like my kids, my nieces and nephews, and kind of look ahead to the future and provide solutions all the way down there, not just in the now.
Absolutely. What's the biggest challenge that the company has come across thus far as you guys are growing and developing?
Again, it was definitely the pandemic, and things move a lot slower at these levels, working at these levels. So a lot of meetings, a lot of people to go through when making big decisions like this. Companies have to vet things and plan accordingly, and causing a giant wave, you need a giant catalyst, you know, and that takes time and planning. And same with, you know, we're working with new brands that are launching and have total and full control over it in collaboration with them.
Oh, cool.
And it's a lot of planning and testing, you know. So that's probably, I think, the difficult thing. And I say difficult being that, like, we care a lot. We want to make things, we want to do it the right way the first time. So we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to perform.
Absolutely.
So, but it's it's obviously a good thing.
Absolutely. And then tell me a little bit more about your supplement company that you helped co-found.
Yeah. So Tenfold.
And that's for the folks at home. How's that spelled? It's T-I-N?
Yeah, Tinfold. Tenfold is something I became a part of during, I was at my first company around the time I was building the camera car. My business partner, Jordan, he basically, him and I went to high school together. We were buddies in high school. We kind of lost touch. He went on to start working with the Olympic bobsled team.
Oh, wow.
He's an amazing athlete. And again, we've been friends for a long time. So he was doing that. I was doing my film stuff. And we actually ran into each other. I was meeting up with my dad and helping him, like, unload something in a new apartment he was moving into. And my dad was telling me about this guy that he would meet up with at like 6 a.m. every morning. He's like, I always see this guy. He's on a bobsled team. He's always training early, and I like to get up early and go work out. Yeah. And so there's this guy named Jordan, and he's got this big pit bull that is named Bruce that I love, and I see him all the time. You need to meet him. I'm like, yeah, cool. Like, if we see him, or like, I don't know, like, tell me when you're hanging out with him. Yeah. So I go help him unload something out of his truck to take up to his apartment. He's like, oh, my buddy Jordan's down there. I turn around, it's Jordan, who I've known since basically junior high, and him and my dad had been, going on walks, or they were friends, and they were living in the same complex. So through that, Jordan at the time had owned a couple supplement supplement stores. Mm-hmm. He had a few supplement stores, and he was making formulas for people for some of these bigger companies, like I think Redcon C4. Don't quote me on that. I can't remember who he's worked with, but I went to get some supplements from him, and he was going to get me like a training program to start following. Oh, cool. So I meet up with him, we catch up, and he tells me about the supplement brand he's trying to launch, and it's a pre-workout that at the time was unflavored, and the big big thing. It was like raw ingredients, super duper healthy. We ended up putting flavor in it later just because some people couldn't stomach it. It wasn't that bad, but it was definitely for like the hardcore gym people.
Oh yeah.
Our product line now is amazing and super healthy and tastes great. But at the time it had no flavor, but he goes, hey, the big thing here is I have a patent on a magnetic scooper that sticks to the lid.
Really?
It's like, all right, I'm all ears. Supplement space is super saturated.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of them.
It's so competitive. It's crazy. But
and then how does that magnet work? Is it so? Because I know traditionally, if you buy a big old tub of protein, you get that cheap little plastic scoop. It's somewhere in there.
Yeah, you're digging. You're getting stuff all over your hands.
Someday you'll find it.
Or like the pre-workout bottle. It's either the protein where you got to reach your whole arm in there, or it's a pre-workout bottle to where you're jamming your fingers in there and trying to rip it out and
inevitably spilling like half the product. Yeah,
exactly. Taking too much of it.
Yeah.
That piqued my interest, and we were talking about he just needed marketing stuff, and I was like, look, I could help you with marketing. Here are my prices. And he was like, what if we did like a partnership? What if I gave you equity in the company? So that's how that partnership started. Again, it was while I was at my other company, or basically in transition, selling my shares from that company. I had the camera card going on, and we just went up and running. And so I had camera car. I was making content for what is now my own product company, which was like a whole different shift to have a marketing agency and then shift to a company that I'm selling my own product now. And now I'm making content for my own product that's going online. So it's kind of cool to be on that side of it. And we're still jamming. We've got a great, user base. We're selling product, and we still have the patent. We've got some people looking at it, which is really cool.
Absolutely.
So hopefully we
licensing deals are nice.
If we could license it, that would be the ideal thing. Or if we do a buyout with a major company, which we've got a few looking at it right now, it'd be great. So
absolutely. I mean, heck, that's all life is about, is solving problems.
Yeah. And again, Jordan, that was Jordan's baby. He was the genius to it. But it was cool to take another venue or way of, okay, I know how to market, I know how to shoot videos. Now I can get equity in a company for doing it. So
that's awesome.
We came to an agreement that I would, do all the content and marketing for X amount of units sold. And after that, we'd figure it out from there. But at that point, I own this much equity in the company and the patent, and here we are still.
And what was it like? What was it like going from shooting automotive, where traditionally you got really fast cars going around 80, 120 miles an hour plus, and then I'm guessing, is it more stationary when you're shooting film and doing marketing for the supplements, or do you get pictures like barbells dropping next to it, or what's that like working with that new or different medium?
Well, it was cool because I have kind of a style I developed. And to me, like all the fitness stuff, like I think of Nike commercials, it's similar to automotive in that, like, I like to shoot very fast-paced things, that are quick cuts, lots of movement, and that's how a lot of things, from Nike or any other big sports brand are. So the crossover there was great, and I got to kind of put my own little flavor on it, which made our marketing content a little different than everybody else in the supplement space. So it wasn't like a weird transition at all, and I enjoyed doing it.
That's awesome. And then what's the biggest challenge? Are you guys trying to go to direct to consumer, or are you going for store shelves and traditional brick and mortar distribution? Or?
We have some brick and mortar that we like wholesale to. A lot of them are people that Jordan knows, and any like gym that wants to sell it. Like we have partnerships like that, but most of it's direct to consumer. So we market online, they come to our website, and they're buying from us directly.
Excellent. Yeah, that's one of the. It's like every Shark Tank episode when it comes to a beverage or some type of product that you consume. They always say, like, what's the most difficult part of launching the business, expanding? And when the entrepreneurs say, oh yeah, we want to get into a convenience store, or a grocery store, Shark's always like, that is the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, and we've had those meetings. Like we've been offered shelf space on some big company shelves, but like. The way those deals are structured are crazy.
It's difficult.
Yeah, and you're very exposed monetarily. Like if your stuff doesn't sell, like
you return it, which is
they're not taking the hit. You are.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. A lot of people don't realize this type of business structures, and they also don't realize, like, it's funny. One of my friends is real estate, and I always joke with him. The most valuable real estate is inside a Walmart. Like per square footage, the amount of money you have to place a product there, and for their team of marketing managers to all, because it's all based on science, like how the store is laid out, where on the shelf, not only x-axis but y-axis, where will that product be the most efficiently placed so it can move the greatest number of units?
Yeah,
it's fascinating the amount of research that goes into that.
Oh yeah, and Walmart's savage.
Oh, I've heard. Yeah, take it or leave it. But I mean, it's like
they'll go get people's product made at their own factories and then lowball. Like I've heard crazy stuff.
Have you ever heard of Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I know Kevin.
Remember his Walmart story?
I don't.
It was so he had he made most of his money with educational software for kids.
Yeah.
And he was selling it pretty good. It
was hooked on phonics, wasn't it? Or was it something similar?
I think it was something similar.
Okay.
The name is escaping me, but he actually got that, entrepreneur dream is they got that meeting with Walmart, the largest retailer, debatable, I guess, with Amazon now, but one of the largest retailers on the planet. And he goes to the meeting, and Walmart execs come out and they go, "Here's a piece of paper. Here's the offer. We see the future of PCs. Because back in the day, PCs used to be prohibitively expensive, and the software is also very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So they go, hey, next 12 months, this is the price point PCs are going to hit. If you want this product to move, this is what the price it needs to be." And it was relative to his normal cost or cost to consumer, maybe I think it was like half the cost.
Mm-hmm.
But they said, this is the future of technology. It's going to get cheaper for the masses. Take this deal. And it's going to be life-changing. So it's a lower price, but I mean, Walmart's known for the massive volume, so that's how he made so much of his money. Is that life-changing deal? So I mean, depending on the situation, it can make or break a company.
It's all about leverage, right? Like
Absolutely.
if you have a product that they can just go create and rip off, you know, or anybody could, then sure. But if you have a patent or you have a software that's proprietary that you designed or a system, and you have some leverage going into those meetings, then you can come out ahead.
Absolutely. That's one of the hardest things is coming up with those unique ideas and positioning it to be an irresistible idea that they don't want to say no to, because it would draw in customers. It solves multiple problems for the customers. It's just such a win-win. It's not going to be turned down types of things.
It's a true value proposition.
No, exactly. And out of curiosity, have you guys worked with any retailers for marketing, or is that something is that a segment you see growing these days, or shrinking usually?
I mean, with Tenfold, we kind of had some of the big meetings with big retailers, and it's just like all the deals are structured to where we don't want to.
It's too risky for the business.
Yeah, like I've got my own company going on, and we're not doing huge numbers to where if we're like exposed that much, like we don't want to be at risk. We want to just slow grind, grow this organically, and not have to sweat, taking it negative because we made a multi-six-figure order for our product,
Yeah, that's all. I mean, that's a big risk, and of course the price is on you.
Yeah,
like a lot of people don't realize, like a good example of that kind of the business situation you're talking about is like with Home Depot. A lot of people don't realize, Home Depot does not own that awesome Milwaukee drill on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Milwaukee, parent company TTI, they actually pay almost like to rent shelf space at Home Depot.
Yeah,
and there's a revenue share built in. It's a very unique experience as opposed to traditional, maybe a company like Walmart goes to Abercrombie. I was going to say, I don't think they sell Abercrombie and Fitch, but a clothing company say, hey, we're going to buy $20 million of clothing, ship it to us. Here's a check. We own it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see. And that is a lot of risk when, that can make or break your company, but there's some variables you can't control. Like what if they put it in a place in the store that's not attractive for the consumer? It's not placed to a supplementary supplement, or like they put it the wrong section. So there's so many variables that make you wonder, like, would it just be better to have it at a specialty gyms where people go to the gym, that's what they want, that
exactly.
they're there to work out. And even then, I'm sure you're working with the gyms like, hey, we think put this right next to the sign-in computer or the sign-in sheet, or there's always the science of where do you place the product.
Yep. And what kind of customers walking through the door. So I've always been, like I mentioned, with video, with cameras, with equipment, like I understand the risk I'm taking, and I understand the downside, and I'd always take these risks. But I mentioned maxing out a credit card for the camera. I knew the downside of it, and it was just like, okay, I know I could make a few thousand, like the worst case scenario, I make a few $1,000s, enough to offset the depreciation of the camera over a year, and I can sell it and I will come out almost at zero.
Yeah.
So everything sounds risky, but it's all calculated. It's the same thing with vehicles. Like I bought that Evo, I sold it for more than I bought it for after it made me all that money. Yep.
That's a win-win. That's incredible.
So I bought it well. Most of my cars I end up doing well on because I know the space. You know, I know vehicles. I know camera gear. I can make calculated decisions on that.
Absolutely.
But, with supplement retail, the deal better be good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to lean on other people that know the space and tell me whether or not it's good or not.
Absolutely. And then I was going to say, it kind of touches on what you already did in terms of your hobbies. Tell me about the experience of having to be able to drive a Bugatti.
Oh yeah,
because that's a lot of people. That's the pinnacle of automotive engineering.
Yeah, it's cool. I drive is a loose word. I got to move it around on track when we were shooting them.
Yeah.
But I've gotten to drive a lot of cool cars like that from other people's collections that we're shooting to getting to borrow friends' cars. Lambos for a week, GTRs for a week. I got to drift my buddy's M4 at a track,
nice.
Drive and then drive them hard, I guess I'll say are two different things, but it's cool. Like being in the automotive space, doing what I've done, getting to shoot the cool content. You get to get put in situations where, you get to either just move these cars around or drive them normally, which is great. And then I've been on shoots where, we're shooting a old Daytona kit car and they're like, hey, does anybody know how to drift? And I'm like, I do. And put me in the driver's seat and tell me to let her rip.
Oh, that's incredible.
So it's definitely an upside of the job. And, I love what I do, but at the end of the day, my passion's being behind the wheel. So I get to work as closely as I can to that or like parallel to that. And then it affords me time, my drift car, going to a track and doing HPDE race days too.
That's awesome. And then I know it's hard to say, but what was your favorite car you've gotten to driven?
Favorite car I've gotten to drive. Probably an Aventador SVJ I got to take out.
Oh, really?
That we were shooting for a dealer they would kind of just throw us the keys. That car was cool. That was on the street, though. I did get to drive my buddy Matt's GT3 RS at the track.
Oh, really?
And that's probably the coolest driving experience I've had. I love the SVJ because it's a V12 and it just screams. But, I didn't get to beat the crap out of it. It was a car that we were shooting. It was for sale, so I had to be responsible with it.
Of course, yeah.
But the GT3 RS, Matt threw me the keys. He was like, take it to the track, let her rip.
Serious?
And that changed my life and made me realize that my savings account is never probably going to be what it could have been because as soon as I can afford one of those cars, I'm buying it.
And that's the pinnacle of German engineering. The Porsche GT3 RS is incredible.
That car makes you think that you're the best driver in the world.
Yeah.
Until you take it over the line, you realize you're way in over your head driving one if you haven't before.
God, I gotta love Porsche too. They're one of the few companies that listen to their consumers in terms of, you ever hear like the stick shift story? I think it was the 80s or 90s.
Mm-mm.
So like Porsche was one of the first companies to advertise that they engineered an automatic that was faster than a stick shift.
Mm-hmm.
And they figure, hey, our customers want to go the fastest, so we're not going to make sticks anymore. So they had a press release saying, hey, we're not going to make sticks anymore. This is faster. We're giving you the fastest experience. The customers are so pissed. They did phone calls, emails. They did everything they could to let Porsche know. And the CEO said, hey, we listen to the customers. We will always make a stick for our enthusiasts. And I mean, in terms of supercars, they're the only one left.
Yeah.
I think it's been 20 plus years for Ferrari, Lamborghini, Maserati. They might have a one-off. I think they had some anniversary edition for Lamborghini where it's a stick, but
Porsches, they're really a true purist brand for sure. And keeping, the GT3s, the GT4s in manual. Some of them like the GT4 you couldn't get in an auto until 2020. Yeah. And then you're paying more for the PDK version because it's faster and whatnot. But Porsche's a big favorite of mine for sure.
God, I've been really getting into the 911. It's not Top Gear. It's not Top Gun. There's a company where they actually make a 911 fully in carbon fiber. So every body panel is replaced with carbon fiber.
That's crazy.
And it's clear coated. So I know like they have a green edition.
Yeah.
It's one of my laptop wallpapers. It just looks amazing.
And $500,000.
Oh no. More.
Right,
It's
yeah.
like I think list price, like there's one on eBay, it's like $950.
Yeah. It's like those Singer Porsches. They're all
exactly,
worth millions.
Yeah. I mean, I love the mechanics of those Porsches. It's just a work of art.
Yeah.
And mechanical engineering all come together to have the most purest driving experience.
Yeah. A timeless design that doesn't change that much either. There's a lot to be said about that.
Absolutely. That's one of the brilliances of the Porsche 911. I would compare it to almost like the Rolex Submariner or Submariner.
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 Yeah.
It's
Timeless.
Yeah, it's the same watch design for over 50 plus years. It just looks like a classic and nice, clean. They got the design right and they just tweak it just a little bit.
Yep.
Which, I mean, it just helps keep the brand, talk about brand loyalty, going over time. It's just going to be that much stronger because it's not changing so much, just enough to keep it fresh and kind of keep it aggressive looking. One of my favorite commercials I saw a couple weeks ago, it's old. I think it was maybe 10, 20 years ago. But this kid, he's in class and what was it? He was, daydreaming about, cars and stuff. So the kid goes to the Porsche dealership. He sits into the 911 and he sees the vision of him driving it when he gets older. And the nice sales rep comes out and he gives the kid his business card. And the kid goes, "Thanks. I'll be back in 20 years." And he leaves the shop.
That's awesome.
I don't know how much money it would take or if the actors are even alive, but Porsche needs to remake that commercial. Like 20 years later, like that kid as an adult buying his Porsche.
Yeah.
And the sales rep selling it. That would be incredible.
Yeah. It's definitely, there's a lot of car commercial that's like the kid watching the dad getting his Porsche or getting in his old hot rod, and then it shows the kid with his own hot rod or the newest Porsche. So it's, it works. It's a story that works. It's a story that's true too.
Absolutely. They've become such a stratospherical, expensive car, but I would love to someday just drive a Carrera GT. I mean,
oh yeah,
good old rear engine V10 Porsche. I mean,
I had a buddy of mine. I haven't seen him in a while, but my buddy Billy, he owns a dealership called Texas Hot Rides, and for a while, I'd always browse their website because they always had the coolest cars, and they were just buying up Carrera GTs left and right. They'd have like 3 of them for sale.
3?
Yeah, and I'd always go see it. I'm like, oh, they picked up another one. They'd buy one. They'd sell it. They'd buy one. They'd sell it. It was cool.
I mean, that's the biggest, perhaps one of the peaks of automotive engineering before they became much more computerized.
Yeah. The 918 Spider was like crazy.
Oh yeah,
hybrid computer to where that Carrera GT was just straight up V10,
naturally aspirated V10, stick shift only. I mean, that is a beautiful piece of it. And of course, now I think the lowest you can find them for is like 1.2 million.
Yeah, I remember seeing them. I think he was selling them at the time around like, I think some of them were in the 900s, but yeah, they've all rocket shipped up.
All right, like a McLaren F1, you will not find one under like what 15 million. Like
I saw a meme yesterday. It was Mr. Bean. He apparently had an F1.
What?
He put 50,000 miles on it. He wrecked it twice, and he still made $12 million when he sold it.
Jeez.
And it's all these like photos of Mr. Bean like next to the car when it's wrecked and stuff. I was like, that's crazy. He's probably the only person that put that many miles on that car.
Right. That's a great, talking about branding, customer service. I mean, you can wreck that car nearly infinitely, but because of the way it's engineered, they can repair it pretty much forever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good brand loyalty for McLaren. And of course, for people who don't know, the V12 is BMW, so it's actually serviced, with some of the BMW group in South Carolina, I believe, at that plant.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they service that. I know that like just maintenance on it, especially if it's parked, is like insanely expensive.
Well, it is like a race car. I mean, everything is. There's a good YouTube video with VinWiki where they talk about the ownership video.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
It's like everything is not engineered to wear out. Like traditionally, if you have a street car, you replace the brake pads when the brake pads are done. Everything on the McLaren F1 is engineered to time out.
Yeah.
So if you park it or if you use it every day, no matter what, you have to replace.
It's got to go to service.
Like the fuel cells every, I think, $150,000 every 3 years. Like, it's astronomical. And of course, just to replace it, I think he was talking about just replacing the tire. Of course, you can't just go to a discount tire, which is a great company, but not only you're not just replacing
special stuff.
Oh yeah, well it's so fascinating because you're not just replacing the tire, they're rebalancing the entire car, and they actually do it on a racetrack. So I mean, to change the tires is like $50,000 because you're paying for the ambulance, the race car driver. So they put the new tire on and they're tuning everything into the vehicle to have it just be the pinnacle of engineering that it is.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think the Chirons are like that too. Like if you get the tire that the factory puts on it for the top speed runs, it's like $20,000 to get a set of tires or something ridiculous.
I believe I remember they did decrease the price because remember the Veyron was $25,000 per. Mm-hmm. It's like $25,000 per tire.
Yeah,
which is a great story of Michelin, but
they made a custom compound for it.
Yeah, that was incredible engineering. I love that.
Yeah, those hypercar companies, the structure around it and what they do, and I got to work with Pagani where I got flown out with my camera rig to basically run camera car for a rally there, and met Horacio, met the family. I drove the camera car because the guys that had brought me out as the filmers and they had me run the camera car. I was the one with race car experience, so I drove up Tail of the Dragon in a Cayenne with my crane strapped to it with 20 Paganis behind me. It was like the most white knuckle driving I've ever done, just because like these guys ship their cars from all over the world to come out here. Like I don't want to hold them up, and Tail of the Dragon's so like tight and compact that I was like, all right, let's get footage for a mile, 2 miles max. And I ended up not being able to turn around anywhere for like half the run. So I'm just flying, trying not to piss all these owners off because they came up here to drive it, and they ended up driving it a couple times. But we're 4-wheel sliding in this Cayenne that we were driving, and Horacio, I got a thumbs up and good driving because he doesn't speak English. I got good driver from him because he was in the front of the pack following us. So that was white knuckle, but the hypercar space, like they're making these like art pieces, so like their marketing is around the car, the mechanics and the beauty, and then the Bugatti, like they're just breaking speed records and building the gnarliest engines that they can.
I mean, I love that. It's just, and that's it. I always like to tell people the importance of a brand having a halo car. You need to get people excited about the brand, get them in the showroom, then they'll buy the base model that they can afford. But it's just, it shows what the company can do, and just like with F1 technology, it all trickles down to the consumer level eventually. I mean, ABS brakes, heads-up display, all those technologies trickle down. And it just became more and more affordable with economies of scale. And
that's why racing's important.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why people that aren't into it don't realize it. They don't make the connection, but like all that tech. NASA takes tech from racing. Like when you let all the rich people go play race car, I say rich people, but like teams, and that's what racing was bred out of. It was people with money creating competition. You create that competition, it creates demand. So that's the beauty of racing in the world, and the good that it does is it brings all this new crazy tech, like you're saying.
Absolutely. Well, I cannot thank you enough for coming on the show. I had a great time.
Man, it was fun.
Thanks so much. Do it again. Appreciate it. Absolutely. We'll have to do it again, Max. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Don't forget, Topping Talks is also on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, heck, tell anyone. Just stay safe. Y'all have a great day. Topping Talks.